I've got it backwards.
Hello and Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you for joining, and I'm super excited to be here today. Everyone who knows me knows very well that I'm never short of words. But today I feel like no matter what I say, I won't be able to do justice to my today's guests and their aura. I'm very proud to be their student and grateful to them for providing me with a beautiful perspective towards life. Now, whenever I am in doubts or limiting myself to something, I hear them out in my head saying, "Oh, according to whom? What's important to you?" Or "a choice is better than no choice." These phrases have helped me grow in a way I never imagined. So without any further ado, let me introduce you to the beautiful souls who share life, share work, and share a home. Marilu Sevi and Jerry Sevi. They are master NLP trainers and founders of Mindbridge NLP training. Jerry, please tell us a little about yourself and why you do what you do.
Okay, well, for about the last 40 years, both Mary Lou and I have been traveling around the entire world, helping people to learn to use more of their mind, to be more effective in especially their communication skills, communicating with themselves and communicating with others or groups of people, improving relationships. But primarily, we do the NLP, that's a acronym for neuro-linguistic programming, which is quite a long mouthful. So most people know it as NLP. And it's the ability to use our thinking, our language, verbal and nonverbal, and our behaviors to help produce the outcomes and the kind of life that we want. But most importantly, as coach certification trainers, we help other people so that they can help other people to have a better life and use more of their potential.
Beautiful. Marilu, I would like you also to tell us a little about yourself and why are you doing what you do?
I love helping people. It's really as simple as that. Having clients and with students, discovering and participating in watching them grow as I have with you, it just makes my life meaningful. And it's the biggest reward that I can possibly imagine in life.
Beautiful. Beautiful, and thank you for equipping all of us so well with all these, resources that we can also help others around us in some little, way of ours. And I would like to thank you, everyone, for joining. You can also comment and ask your questions in the comment boxes, and I will forward your questions to Jerry and Marilu. So my first question, is it, there are certain skills and personality traits that we are all born with. And then there are skills and personality traits that we acquire with time. So in your point of view, is it nature or nurture? What helps us develop our personalities?
Okay, well, that has been asked for quite a long period of time. People have gone over that. Is there predestination? Are we predestined? How, is it set in stone how we're going to be for the rest of our life? Mm-hmm. And it turns out the answer is both, because when we begin our physical being as a single cell in our mother, that has the DNA, the code. It's like a library. It has all the instructions of how to build our biological body. So in that first cell, we have already the code for our hair color, our eye color, probably our regular height. However, there's other things in nurturing that can alter that. If we don't get enough nutrition, we may not reach the genetic potential of our height. If we don't take care of ourselves and have the right, we may lose our hair prematurely. We may have a genetic predisposition for certain diseases. Some we can postpone by having a healthy lifestyle. Others we may get sooner than the genetics would normally predict because we maybe have an unhealthy lifestyle. So it's a combination of both. Nobody knows exactly which ones we can and cannot control. We probably can't control our eye color except for the fake contact lenses. Some people control their hair color, but genetically we do have a certain structure. So some is built in tendencies toward, and then we can either accentuate or maybe diminish or ameliorate those particular traits or characteristics.
I think also that as we look at our own families and we look at people in the world, where they come from, as Jerry said, has a significant influence on how they develop. But very much like all people, the experiences you have in life will bring to the forefront or to help recede to the background certain attitudes, certain perceptions, and the development of talent can be encouraged. So while not everyone is going to be a famous chef or a famous artist or writer, there's still the development of those skills. And then depending on how we spice, how we practice, all of that really does influence how much we can bring out within ourselves, because ultimately potential comes from within.
So true. So true. And I have actually people joining in. Thank you, Vinod Singhi, Rifat Aslam, and Fanika for joining and for your comments. And I can see there are a lot of people who are joining. Thank you, everyone, and you're welcome to ask your questions and put them in. All right. So my next question. Everybody, has a different model of world because we are all born different. We experience different environments, cultures, upbringing, and this is why we all have a different model of the world. So how to work along this approach and how to take a stand when or if needed?
Okay. It is true that no two people have exactly the same understanding of what they perceive through their sight, sound, smell, touch, and taste. We put meaning on what we experience. That's why at the scene of an accident, for example, you can have many different descriptions of what actually occurred. Now, some's going to depend physically. Where were you standing? How tall are you? Was there anything blocking your way? How close were you? All these factors. An example would be Mary Lou and I were stopping at a post office, getting ready to go on vacation. We pulled our car out into a line of traffic that was moving very slowly. There was plenty of space. We started moving. We got a very short distance, and because of a traffic light, the traffic stopped. And so, of course, we had to stop too. Well, two young people on a motorcycle were coming down the road behind us, and they ran right into the back of our car and flew up over their motorcycle onto the road. Well, luckily, a policeman was not that far away, and he came over and he asked, there was 5, 6 people standing on the sidewalk that saw the whole thing. And he asked, what happened? And of course, one person said, well, the motorcycle didn't stop in time and ran to the back of the car. And somebody else said, no, it's those 2 people in that Mercedes. We had a Mercedes at the time. Those 2 people in that Mercedes, it was their fault. Now, he must have had a worldview that people who drive Mercedes means something. They're always trying to get away with something. They take advantage of this poor guy on a motorcycle with his girlfriend. And he really believed that somehow we were at fault, even though we were stopped. And a couple of other people said, well, maybe they were both in the wrong place. And they were going. Finally, the policeman asked the guy who said that it was the Mercedes' fault, our fault. He said, well, just tell me this. Did the car back up into the motorcycle? So our own prejudices, our own biases will actually alter how we experience something, and especially how we remember it later. It's going to be distorted, and that's going to have a lot to do. So as far as how do we take a stand, it depends on what you're taking a stand for. We have something called values. Values are that which is most important to us. We may have got them from our parents, from our religion, from our society. There's so many ways to get them. But as we get older, we start to decide which values are our highest values and which ones are our values. But, they're a little bit fuzzy at the edges. So when we take a stand, typically it's on the ones that are our highest values. And to take a stand does not mean we have to have our way, make it our way, we're right, they're wrong. But we might want to consider if one of our highest values is getting along with others. Well, then instead of simply demanding that we get our way, we might want to say, I have got a point of view and I've got an opinion, but let me hear yours. And maybe you can find out what are their values? How are they seeing this situation? Like the policeman. So tell me, he didn't say you were wrong. He just said, was the other car, Mercedes, backing up? So with that question, he had to think, I don't know, but it's his fault. That's okay. At least that way there, I was able, and Mary Lou were able to take a stand and saying we were sitting still. That's an objective fact. That's not an interpretation of the meaning we put on it. We were stopped because the traffic in front of us was stopped and we couldn't move forward any further than we were. And so that kind of cleared it up. So there are times when we know that we don't all understand things the same way, especially the meaning we put on it. But even our physical senses may not notice things that other people noticed. We may miss things that they do notice. So the idea is to get the biggest picture and then find out with our higher values, what's really, and here's the question we ask ourselves, what's really important in this situation?
True.
Being right, which oftentimes with couples, families, it's more important to be right than just to have a nice, happy family or a good marriage. So what is our higher values? If the higher values is, no, I really want to have the best relationship with my wife, then maybe being right isn't as important as finding out how can we come to some agreement.
True. Beautiful. Thank you for answering that. So for my understanding, I understood that, okay, it's not always, important to be right. It's sometimes we can even try to save relationships that are important to us. We just need to, park our prejudices and immerse ourselves in the world model of others. So mostly it's our conception and that is our reality.
Mary Lou, did you have a comment on that?
I think you've covered pretty well.
Okay.
All right. So this one comes for Mary Lou. Our internal state influences our external behavior and interactions. How can one manage their internal state to be able to perform well, personally as well as professionally?
So in the NLP and with coaching clients, one of the things that is most common is to develop exactly that, the management of internal states. Because truly how we feel about ourselves and the situation, that is going to influence our expressions, our tone of voice, how we engage with people. And the management of our internal state really comes down to how do we feel about ourselves? Because it's not just the situation out there where somebody else is making us feel good, feel bad. It's how do we feel as we engage with others or in a situation that's challenging out there in the world. So the quality of our internal state is going to be determined by the quality of our thoughts and our understandings of who we are specifically in this particular situation. And if in general we feel good about ourselves, then we will find resources within us, even if it's just a neutral state, to manage difficulties in that outer world that we live in. We live in an outer world, but that outer world is influenced by the inner world, and that is where we have the most choice. We don't always have choice about what happens out there. It's about how do we respond to it. So the choice is better than no choice, that I have no inner enemies, that I can change my thinking, and by changing my thinking, I can change my internal states. By looking at and exploring within ourselves, what is the meaning I'm putting on this? And if a value of mine is being violated, what does it mean to me that that's happening? All of those types of questions that we explore as we self-discover, all of those help us manage that internal state. And honestly, no one's perfect. We're going to determined by, do we get enough sleep? How are we feeling? Is there crisis in our family? All of that has an influence on us. We rise and fall according to our understanding and our ability to respond. And if we can set aside externals that are happening to be able to focus clearly on achieving the best and highest quality outcome for both parties, then we're doing a great job of managing our internal state at the moment we need it.
Yes, especially after COVID. I think I think there are so many people, I was talking to a friend the other day and she was like so worried about her child's, social interaction with people. And she was like, how will he learn or she learn the social skills? So these are all, a part of, this COVID is, has struck children so badly because they are losing their social skills. They will not know maybe in some time that what to expect when they go out, or what will people expect of them when they go out. So thank you for answering this one.
I think one more piece, as you bring up children and COVID,
Yes.
I think it's very, very relevant that we acknowledge to our children how that it's okay to feel what you feel. Then the question becomes, if you're feeling this, is this the feeling you want to have? And what will this feeling do for you? And how will this feeling help you in ways that make you feel good about yourself and whoever you're engaging with? Because it's pretty much a shared experience right now that there are restrictions and restraints, and that those feel in many cases like we are being prevented from having what we want. But for a child, it can help them develop a closer relationship with family and siblings. It can help them develop more understanding and more time to explore their creativity. And if the adults in the world understand that we can manage our emotional states, not all the time, but enough of the time, and honestly articulate that to those people that we live with, then life gets easier for everyone, including the children.
So true. So true. All right. So let's come to our next question, and then I will take a question from the audience. So this one is for you, Jerry. We sometimes acquire, this tunnel vision in time of difficulties. We generalize situations such as this is how it has been like all my life, or everyone thinks bad about me all the time. So how to identify and, work on it to, get over such generalized statements?
Okay. First of all, what generalize means is we take a few examples and we focus on them and exclude all the exceptions, the distinctions, the things that are not included, and at the times that things weren't always awful. That person didn't always treat me in a bad way. So we take a few examples and we generalize it, globalize it to this is the way everything is. And sometimes, especially in the way that you framed that question, it's called awfulizing. Isn't it awful? Everything's terrible. And we blow it up and we miss everything else because we're zoomed in, tunnel vision on that one example situation. And sometimes it's just a part of that situation. My boss is such a terrible, mean, horrible person. And it may be what we're really focusing on is their tone of voice. We may be ignoring all the other cues they're giving us that they really aren't that bad a person. They're just trying to do their job the best they can, so that you have a job, so that they get the work done. And so we pay attention maybe to the look, the sound of the look at their mouth, or the way they lean for their gestures, and we put a meaning on all that. So that's how we can generalize. We look at some little thing and we assume that is enough of an example to everybody does that. And that's where prejudice comes from. All people from that country talk funny. All people from that country smell. All people from that country are stupid. All people from that country are bad people. And we generalize it. And it's probably true that in every country. However, when we generalize it, it really is a prejudice because we ignore all except when. And that's how we can help ourselves. When we find, I'm not really good at math. Matter of fact, I'm very bad at math. Okay, sometimes I'm not that good. I can do 1 and 1 is 2. There's some math I can do. So I'm bad. Mary Lou's helped me sometimes when I'll say, well, there's something X, Y, Z, and she'll say, I always get upset when you do that. She said, except when you don't. Oh. And I have a hard time saying what I want to say in front of a group of 1,000 people, except when you don't. In Poland, you had 1,000 people and you were very articulate. So she starts to remind me that there are exceptions to this generalization. So I'm not stuck in, let me only focus on where it didn't work.
Yeah.
And then even if it's not, she will ask me, add the word yet. So you're not good at math yet. And this is neuro-linguistics, how our thinking, our language, mostly how our thinking, because we talk to ourselves all the time. That's how we limit ourselves or get, as Mary Lou said, some of those unresourceful emotional states. And one way is to learn the neurolinguistics of how can I reframe how I'm saying that or thinking about that. And little things like yet, or instead of I should or they should, they shouldn't, they should, it would be nice if they could. So these little things are how we manage our internal states, how we are able to move past some of these generalizations and maybe be more more effective in whatever it is we want, especially communicating with ourselves and others.
Yeah.
Mary Lou?
Beautiful.
Yeah, no, that's good.
All right. So I have one question from the audience, and I really like it. So I would like to put that up for you. She's saying, it's Rima Khan's question. She's saying expectations are one of biggest cause of disappointment in people. Is it because of exceeding expectation or not being able to handle the disappointment? Good question.
So
Great.
some of it lands right in expectations in and of themselves. It's interesting because all of the Mindbridge coaches are coming
Yes.
Friday to a workshop on expectations, and the key here is expectations. The word itself is a noun, but expecting is an ongoing process. So we ask, what are we expecting? Are we expecting from the past? Is that our reference point? It used to be this way, therefore it should be that way. And then we're putting a rule on the experience that we're entering into, or is it that we're expecting out there in the future, it will be what we want, but if it involves other people, do we have to control them? So expectations in and of themselves are not bad. It's like, where are those expectations coming from? And what are we expecting to happen? And then how do we as individuals manage that quality of our own internal state so that when we understand we're expecting, we can articulate what our need is in such a way that we allow the other person the freedom to understand what it is that we want. And I know that Jerry and I have been together for a long time, 40 plus years. So he's now learned that, if I'm reading, which is really important to me, rather than just sit down and start talking, he'll stop and he'll say, is this a good time? And I'll do the same with him, which I may not like to hear him say, no, it's not a good time right now, but at least I've given him the freedom to express what he needs. Therefore, I'm not going to be upset that I'm not going to get my needs met. I then have to adjust what are my needs. And if it's something that's extremely important, I'll say, this is really important. Can you stop what you're doing? Just give me 2 or 3 minutes. That kind of interaction in a conversation with another, be it your family, your friends, your coworkers, it really reduces the negativity of the unfulfilled expectation. Expectation is out. If something out there has to happen and it doesn't happen, we're not happy, it's not useful any more than if it does happen, then I am happy. That's not useful either. It's nice, but it's not useful because it takes the power and the control of our lives and puts it out there. And it's not out there. It's all in here and how we perceive and deal with that perception.
And it's good to also realize that there are negative expectations. Oh, what if it rains? What if this happens? What if that happens? That has value in that it might get us to plan and say, all right, what can I do if what I'm concerned about happens, but not getting stuck only in worry. That's a very negative internal state. It's not helpful in solving problems. It only helps us to realize we need to be prepared. But then positive expectations are good unless you place them on somebody else. I expect you to be the way I want you to be. And that can be, so I say there's negative expectations, good to help us plan, positive expectations to help us move forward, take action, to be willing to put in the effort, realistic expectations. We realize that it's not one thing. There's maybe some downside, there's some upside. What is within my power to be able to do, which is that it's been around for hundreds of years, that God, please grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, but have the courage to change things I can. But most important, the wisdom to know the difference.
Oh, beautiful. Yes. Perfect. All right. So let's go to our next question. That's a very important one. Everybody wants to know. Limiting beliefs. What are they and how do we get out of this, self-created box of limiting beliefs or the so-called, comfort zone to achieve what we really want to?
Okay. So beliefs are an interesting structure. You can't hold a belief. There's nothing physical about a belief. In many cases, we don't even know what our beliefs are. We say we believe this and we believe that. But the way you actually understand your belief structure is you look to your life experience. If you believe in abundance, you will find abundance everywhere. If you believe in scarcity, you will seek to find scarcity to validate and confirm that belief. Beliefs are made up of the totality of our life experience. And most of them, the most influential beliefs in who we know ourselves to be are developed by age 5. And they come from repetition of experience. Oh, you're so brilliant. You're so brilliant. You're so smart. You're so easy to get along with. You're so happy. Authority. Mom says that. Dad says that. My teachers say that. I'm so easy to get along with. I'm so lucky. I'm so happy. So we get repetition of the same body of information, and we have it coming from authority. And then we have a direct experience where something challenges us in our life, and we thrive. You know, we stand up and we answer the question, and the teacher says, that's great. And all the kids in the room say, yeah, that's really great. That empowers us. But the same is true in the flip. Children should be seen and not heard. You don't know what you're talking about. There's no nightmares aren't real. Don't believe in your dreams. Oh, be quiet. Who do you think you are? You're stupid. Whether we get that from our siblings, whether we get it from our caretakers, whether we get it from our society, the media messages, when it happens again and again and again, and when authority says it, you're wrong, you're bad. What that happens is if we have an emotional experience where all of that comes together, which is actually called a trauma, then what occurs is that organizes in such a way as to create a filter or a perception. And the other thing about beliefs is they travel in packs. They're like these little gangs. They support one another. So you've got team positive beliefs, and then you've got the gang of limiting beliefs. When we work to change our beliefs, what begins to take place is, you know what? Beliefs are outside of our conscious awareness. Our psyche protects us from going in and tampering with our belief system. Because if we tamper too much with our belief system, it's almost like a schizophrenic experience. Yesterday I believe this, and today I believe this, but what about tomorrow? So the backup programs that exist to support us. Now, here's where some of the presuppositions in NLP are so important. If we have an understanding, even in theory, there is no inner enemy, that every thought, feeling, behavior, belief that I have at some level has a positive intention to protect my well-being, even though it may be askew in how it represents in our thoughts, in our attitudes, and in our experience, our behavior. What happens then is if we reach to that positive intention, we are able to, with help, with coaches, with NLP intervention, with other types of models, reach to where the value of the origin for that limiting belief is, and thus evolve that belief into something that empowers us.
Beautiful. So well explained. Thank you so much. All right. So we have one more question from the audience, if you don't mind. It's Fahim Saber saying, very interesting discussion. In this COVID-struck situation, what is the effect on relationships, and what can we do to improve those close or business or long distance relationships?
So I got a good one for this, because COVID has made a massive difference in our lives. The way I know you and so many of the people that are dear to my heart are, Jerry and I come from the US to Dubai several times a year to present trainings and the material that we want to share to empower others. And it's that live experience of being connected to you and standing outside in the break room and having coffee and talking about our lives. And it's so important to me. And travel and being in different places with different people. And all of a sudden, it's gone. Gone.
True.
So for a year, all of what I have had as a way of connecting with the most important people that I value, it's been gone. And that's created challenges, a lot of challenges in many ways. But one of the things I've discovered, it's also helped me perceive what's most important. What are the other ways I can resolve and connect with people? We're doing it right now.
Zoom.
So Zoom was not something I would even consider. Writing was not something I would consider when it started with our Mindbridge WhatsApp group. I committed to, as long as Dubai was in lockdown, to providing you with messages, and I got to love doing it. You guys got out of lockdown. We're still there. But the key here is to understand that in every situation, everything that limits us, there is an opportunity. But the only way we see that opportunity is if we look for what's possible here, not what's missing, because it's so easy to get, this is missing. I'm missing my partner isn't responding to my text. They must not care about me. And now I'm angry with them. They should respond right away. Well, we don't expect that when we're live with them. So COVID has given us a deep understanding, especially for those of us who have lost people we care about, to what's most important. Is it most important? I think this was said earlier. Is it about being right, or is it about being happy? Is it all about me? What about you? What about what your needs are? What about what you're going through? I've watched people I know and love lose loved ones from COVID. I've lost loved ones from COVID. Mm-hmm. There's something pretty profound about the lessons that life is giving us right now, more to deepen and appreciate what we have than to feel that something's been taken away from us. I look at what has COVID given me. And Jerry and I talk about this. We're stuck in the same house together 24 hours a day with our cats. And so the only time I get to go out is to go to the grocery store, and that's not that often. So what we've done is found ways to deepen our connection, give each other more time to find that quiet and solitude that they need, and give each other the space to connect in ways that we're not able to with others. Hugging people, with the exception of my cats and my husband, that's out of my life right now. And that's true for a lot of people, and that's tough. But there's other ways of connecting, and that's when you open your heart to what someone cares and what their needs are, and you care enough to listen. That's what builds. That's what will help us get through this and help us be stronger.
And you sure. Brought in the earlier question about how when we globalize, everything's bad, everything's how. That's where we're ignoring everything else and just looking at one little part of it. In this situation here, we may be looking at 2020, or we may be looking at right now, this week. Here's where the opposite is useful. When you think about your whole life, how much is this COVID 2020 compared to some of the other things that have happened right now? But what's it going to be like a year from now when most of the world is vaccinated, 5 years from now when COVID is just simply an old memory like the Spanish flu from 1917, Not that I was around 1917, but that sometimes it's better to look at things in perspective of the wider view. How much is this in the big picture, where other times we want to open it up to what is the big picture, not just what is this little event.
Beautiful. All right. So my next question, the need to control, the need to be affirmed, or the need to judge others. These are the things that our ego is doing constantly. How can we get over it, or, normalize our behaviors like these?
Okay. So now, first of all, ego is often given a bad rap. I have had teachers who have helped me see ego as this is the filter through which your self emerges. This is the filter through which your representation of all of your gifts emerge. So I'm going to use ego in that way. And when I think of ego, I think of my relationship with myself. But what's most important to me is my relationship with the divine. That's my first and foremost relationship. How I am in my deepest spiritual world when I'm connected beyond my body. My second most important relationship is to myself. How do I treat myself? How do I love myself? How do I care for myself? How do I think about myself? How do I appreciate myself? My next most important relationship is with my significant other. He's here on the screen.
Oh, I thought it was going to be the cats.
And then if I had children, it would be with children. And then it's family. And then it's the closest of my friends. And then it's acquaintances. And then it's colleagues. And, it keeps going out in these concentric circles in terms of how do I, through my ego, interact. But if my relationship with the divine stays in place and my relationship with myself stays in place, my ego is going to be checked in such a way that it allows an expression of the best of who I am most of the time, not all of the time. Because I mean, I don't believe in perfect. I was raised Catholic. Catholic, perfection equals sainthood. Sainthood, you have to be dead for. So I'm quite okay with not being perfect. That means I still have time to grow. So, finding the feedback of, I didn't behave in the way I wanted to then, but because I'm healthy within myself and because I can be grateful and appreciative of my life, I can go to my husband or my friend and say, I'm sorry, that behavior that I just demonstrated, what I just said, that doesn't represent who I want to be and who I want you to know me as. So that ability to be self-reflective, self-aware, and accountable, being accountable for your actions then allows you to kind of take a reset and upgrade the quality of your experience when your behaviors weren't quite what you wanted them to be.
True. All right. So last question of this round, and then we will move towards our rapid fire. So this one is, we often, miss a lot of opportunities because we are afraid to ask. As I know, asking open doors and makes it easy for us to understand, other person's point of views or their choices. So asking requires a lot of courage for some people. How to acquire the art of asking?
Okay, that's actually a very good question. When asking a question, is the question really a statement hidden as a question? So everybody believes this. Isn't that true? That's not a question. So it's not often, it's the difficulty is how do you phrase a question or deliver it in a way that it's not taken as an interrogation, as prying, or trying to force somebody to think something a certain way by the question you asked. Like, the famous one, have you stopped beating your dog yet? No matter how you answer that question. So that's not really an open question. So the thing is, we have in NLP what we call, because in coaching is not telling other people what to do. It's asking people questions, powerful, insightful questions to help them discover what's best for them. You may have some interaction and give them your point of view, but mainly it's getting from the client, from them. What is it that is good for them in the way they see the world and how they're experiencing things? So we have what we call softeners. If when asking a question, you start out with, even in an interview like this, I'm curious. And then ask the question. Anything that comes after that is softened because you started out with this is a curiosity, not a interrogation. Or, I'm wondering, what would be the best way to ask a question that allows a person to be more comfortable in hearing the actual question and feel more free in how they answer that question? So how you frame the question, and that's not just the words, but also with my tone of voice, my gestures, my expressions, all of those were showing curiosity. So when asking questions, even ones that are very important and probing, if you go in with curiosity, not I'm expecting you to answer the question a certain way, but I'm really curious, how do you see this situation? What else could you do? If we don't go so much into why do you do that? Why do you feel it? But, I'm just curious, what else could we do? And we look for options. We look for opportunities. We try to expand and not keep it down to, so a lot of it depends on the context in which the question is asked. Mary, did you have a comment you want to add to this?
Yeah, I think also in relation to how we miss opportunities by not asking questions, that's something we were trained not to do. We were trained to be courteous to others. We were trained not to interrupt. We were trained and we were taught that, what we're saying really doesn't count. We might appear stupid. So again, that sense of it's all about me instead of, the other person has something of value. and they want to share it. Don't we all just love being able to help someone when they ask a question and we have some way that helps them open up to the possibilities within them? Then it feels good. So when you're thinking about, should I ask this question? Think about this. That person that you're asking the question probably would love to offer their insight, their direction, their help. And if we don't ask, then we don't give them the opportunity. So it's not just an opportunity for us, it's also an opportunity to connect even deeper.
True. And when Jerry actually mentioned, to ask and say, okay, I'm curious to know, it just refreshed my memories of our class where we used to practice all the time this thing, I'm curious to know, would you like to have some coffee? And we were like, keep on repeating it so we can actually, acquire that art to ask it politely. So how can we actually master it like Jerry does? So it was totally, out of this world. The experience that we usually have in that class is out of this world. Okay, so now we come to our rapid fire. And okay, there is one more question, if you don't mind me taking that. Sometimes we are positive and sometimes negative when it comes to feeling. Is there a neutral state of feelings?
Kind of like the weather. Yes. Absolutely. There's a whole range of experience, and there are times when it's not a big deal what happens. It's, Jerry will ask me oftentimes, do I want this or do I want this in terms of, what we're going to do, what we're going to plan, how we're going to spend our time. And it really doesn't matter to me. And if it doesn't matter to me, I'm on neutral. And there are times when I'm sitting there and I'm reading or I'm working and I don't really have a lot of emotional engagement. And my cat walks across the room and does something really funny and I burst out laughing. So emotions change according to the context, but also change according to what's going on internally for us, what we're focused on. There is no such thing as a fixed emotion. Emotions are all variable. And in between that, from the less than positive, or some people call negative, to the most positive, there is that space in between where, it's just neutral and it's okay. Kind of zen, not a big deal here.
Also, it's important to know that all emotions have value when appropriately expressed, but emotions are basically an evaluation. Now, we say one of your earlier questions about being judgmental. That's what we humans do. Something is good, it's bad, it's better than, it's worse than, it's less than, it's more than. This is a natural part of your being. So when we have an emotion, be it negative or positive, sometimes to be able to step back and think, what is the message I'm getting from that emotion? Well, that this is important to me, or that somebody's violating my values, or somebody's trying to manipulate me, or there's an opportunity here, and maybe I need to move forward to that. Now, if a person is used to looking for what's missing, what's wrong, what's bad, and you practice it and you're really good at it, then that's what you're going to do the majority of the time, and you will have unpleasant emotions most of the time because people will be disappointing you. They should, they shouldn't, it's not right, it's bad. If you practice looking at, that's not really good. What can we do? What can I do in this situation? Is there something I have influence over, or do I not? And then maybe we can move to getting into the habit of being able to look at, what can I learn from this? Not what did I do wrong? What was the big mistake? Okay, I did make a mistake. What can I learn from that and look forward to the future where maybe I can do it different next time? And if you practice that, it becomes normal. Happiness as an emotion is literally the state where the majority of your thoughts are pleasant the majority of the time. Unhappiness is when the majority of your thoughts are unpleasant the majority of the time. In neutral, when I meditate, it's nice to be in a neutral state. That's great. But is that a normal? I don't know if I'd always want to. I like highs and lows as long as they're not too high and too low. We call that manic depressive. We want to stay in that normal range. But it is good to, with changing environment and situations and thoughts, to be able to experience the whole range of human emotions and find, as we would say in the class, or Mary Lou and the masters would say, what is most useful in this situation now or in the future? So is it useful is more important, or is it negative or positive? What's the value here? Did that
Beautiful.
answer the question?
Yes, excellent answer. And let's go to our rapid fire. So here we are not coaches. We are Marilu and we are Jerry. Okay. So just quick, short, crisp answers to these one as we want to know you personally. So it will be one from Marilu and one from Jerry. So you answer alternatively. Okay. All right. So first one for Marilu. Would you rather be the center of attention or left alone?
Somewhere in between.
Okay. All right, Jerry, do you believe people change or stay the same?
People always change. You cannot stay the same. Everything changes.
Good, perfect. All right, Marilu, do you love finishing what you start or you just leave them in the middle end?
I love finishing. Starting first, definitely love finishing though, because then I get to start something else.
All right, perfect. So, Jerry, do you trust others easily?
Yes, and Mary, and sometimes my life has shown me sometimes too much because I have to wait until there's evidence not to, and sometimes that there's consequences.
All right. Okay, Marilu, do you prefer variety in life or routine in life?
Variety.
So you must have not liked, this COVID time.
I'm learning to find choices in a limiting world.
Good. Okay. So, Jerry, do you have regrets in life?
Do I have what?
Regrets. Do you regret anything in life?
Very, very little. To have regrets, you have to have two images in your mind at the same time. What could have been, should have been, you want it to be, and then what it is and how it. I mostly focus on what is and what I want. The past, that's not. I remember it. I don't close the door on it, but I'm not. What can I learn from it? And as long as it's what can I learn from it, then the regrets just seem to disappear.
Beautiful. This is an important one for everyone to know how to get rid of regrets. Okay. Do you see, Marilu, do you see most matters of life in black and white?
No. I've got the whole spectrum.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Jerry, I know the answer to this one, but I would like to ask, do others intimidate you easily?
No.
Never.
No, they don't. Because I look at the whole big picture, the generalization, not that little moment of intimidation or attempt to.
Yeah. Okay. So, Marilu, do you break rules that seem too strict to you or you obey them?
From the day I was born, my breaking rules is my thing.
All right. I think this question is supposed to go to Marilu, but I will ask it from Jerry. Do you enjoy traveling, Jerry?
I've traveled all over the world. I enjoy it.
Okay, perfect. And there is one question that was not in my rapid fire, but Priya has asked it. Jerry, what color are your socks today? See, happy socks. So Jerry's socks are always happy socks, yes?
Happy socks.
Okay. All right, Marilu, do you like binge watching your favorite shows?
Yeah, but I don't have a lot of favorites.
Oh, okay. All right, Jerry, do you feel like you make too many mistakes in life? Or it's
according to me, no. According to Marilu, not so much.
All right. Okay.
That was a joke, Marilu. That was a mistake. There's a mistake right there.
All right, Marilu, do you believe in love at first sight?
I fell in love with him before I knew who he was. I saw him sitting in a hotel room with his eyes closed. I was going into a seminar. Turned out he was the speaker at the seminar. And as I was walking past him, turned to my girlfriend who was going to this lecture with me. I said, I think I'm going to marry that guy. So yeah.
Which means you do. Okay. Jerry, would you rather be the funniest or the smartest person in the room?
If you're really smart, you can be really funny.
Oh, wow. All right. Mary Lou, are you indecisive
No,
even when you're shopping?
no,
Okay, you know what you want.
I
All
do.
right. Okay, Jerry, do you tend to see the glass half full or half empty?
A glass cannot be half full or half empty unless it also has the other. If it's half full, then it's also half empty. If it's half empty, it's also half filled. So I see the whole glass. I really.
Beautiful. Okay, perfect. Okay, there is one question from Lamis. Marilu and Jerry, what is your favorite Arabic food?
Umali.
Yes, we know that.
Oh, pretty much.
All right. So this wraps up my rapid fire as well. Thank you very much for joining, and thank you everyone else who's joined. It was a lot of fun and it was very informative. Thank you for taking this time out for us, Mary Lou and Jerry, and we hope to see you again. Would you like
Thanks
to
for
give a
having us.
concluding message to everyone who's watching?
Well, thank you for being here, and thank you for inviting us, Wajiha. We really enjoy.
Same
Here
here.
again, this is us contacting and connecting with people, even in COVID. It still feels like where time and space don't exist. We're all together.
Beautiful, Marilu.
Just thank you all for joining and supporting Wajia, and thank you for your interest in personal growth. And there's so many ways to grow. You can always find us on mindbridgetraining.com, but if not, find us through Wajia.
Oh, yes, sure. I will be pleased to connect you all. All
Okay.
right. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And thank you, Jerry. And thank you, Mary Lou. It was wonderful. Thank you for being here. Take care. Goodbye.
Bye.
Okay.